Throwing and it's a chaos.
Mikel, at 1-0 for so long in that match, was it uncomfortable for you at times?
It is always and against Brentford because they just need a throw in and it's a chaos and an adventure and 1-0 is never enough against them. It's true that way. I think we dominated the game, created the biggest chances. We only conceded one chance on the save of David from the corner, I think. Overall, very happy because the week that we had 3 days later without any kind of recovery to do what we've done again, I'm very pleased and proud of the players.
You just mentioned that save, and I have to ask you about it because David Raya, you've spoken about the difference that he's made for you in goal. That was one of the best saves of the season, wasn't it?
Yeah, I haven't looked at the back, but it looked like a great reaction and a really important one. I think their keeper made some very good saves as well because we had some big open chances. But that's what you need in key moments, our players individually to do what they have to do. And we certainly done it. Another clean sheet, that we had 4 games without a clean sheet and a good victory.
Clean sheet, 18 unbeaten, 4 wins in a row at home. You tick all of those things off, and you also add into the fact you've had so much football to play. You spoke about rotation before the game. Right now, are you getting maximum out of this team, do you think?
Yeah, especially because the amount of injuries that we still have, and we lost Saliba, we lost Big Gavi, today we lost Mosquera. Yeah, it's been a challenge, but Jurgen had to play as a centre, but whoever comes in, Ben White, I think he was excellent today. So everybody that gives giving the opportunity is performing.
Talking about those injuries, Mosquera, obviously a big concern. Rice towards the end as well. Any update on either of those and whether Saliba could be back for Aston Villa?
Yeah, we will know more tomorrow. Let's see how they are. Obviously, they need to be tested. Declan had to come off, so let's see who is available.
I've also got to ask you about Mikel Merino because you're persisting with him. The movement, I mean, could we see striker come on?
It's unbelievable. What he's done today, again, not only the goal, because the goal is magnificent, the movement, the quality in the finish, how he times it, then his work rate, the way he does things, how smart he is, the intensity that puts in a reaction, it's phenomenal.
Is he open to you changing his position?
I don't know. Well, after he had to play as an 8 when Declan was, so he's happy. As long as he's on the pitch, I think he's going to be happy.
Back to those 2 most informed teams in the Premier League right now. Fun one coming up, Aston Villa and Arsenal. First thing on Saturday. Danny, your lead thought with this match?
It's without question the game of the weekend. I think Aston Villa, they're in great form. We've already seen the midweek result that they got at Brighton, coming from 2-0 down, going and then winning the game. You look at Watkins now back in the goals. And I think they're in a really good spot at the moment. 6 points behind Arsenal, can obviously half that to 3. And then I think you also have to talk about the injuries that Arsenal potentially have at the back as well. But it's going to be a really tough game for Arsenal.
I think the form of Ollie Watkins is what stands out to me because he mentioned it after the game midweek. He knows he wasn't scoring. It wasn't lost on him, and he's a proud striker. So for him to get the brace is worrying for Arsenal, given their defensive injuries. Mosquera goes off midweek. We don't know what that is. We know Gabriel is going to be out for a little bit. So that he's a tough challenge for even the best of centre backs. The good news for Arsenal is they're getting some of their attacking injuries back to full fitness, and they can chop and change. Mikel Merino scoring the goals, which is a big thing. Look, I just think that I give Unai Emery so much credit for him to, they're 3rd in the Premier League. I don't know where they came from. I mean, for them to be in the form that they are and just to quietly go about their business. Why I think it's going to be a good game of football is because Villa play one way. They will press you. They're not afraid to use the ball. They'll do it home and away. They have a pattern and a flow that, yes, it wasn't clicking early on, but they found that form and they go really strong.
It's certainly clicking right now. They've won 8 of their last 9, and they're at home. I know it's against the league leaders, but is it crazy to think of them as favorites on Saturday?
I think I wouldn't put them as favourites, but I think that it is very close. They've already beaten Manchester City at home. And I go back to what Tim said. You look at Arsenal defensively. That is the concern. So from my perspective, when you're in a centre-back partnership, and it's great, you know who's playing alongside you. You know how that person works. You know the strengths, you know the weaknesses. But then from your side of things, Tim, if you're used to playing, for example, you have Gabriel and Saliba constantly in front of you, all of a sudden that gets changed and then maybe an injury makes it change again. Would it affect you as a goalkeeper?
Well, it puts more pressure on you as a goalkeeper to get it right. They like to play out of the back. We know that with David Raya. So his communication, his ability to get these guys on the same page quickly. They have good pieces that they can play at the center back position. It's just not they're not in sync. I don't think that that Villa are favorites by any stretch, but I do know that when Arsenal get on that bus and go up the road to Birmingham, they'll be thinking, this isn't a game that we really fancy. The crowd will be right up for it at Villa Park. We know the Villa players will, so it'll be a really tough game. I still have Arsenal just tilting it, but it's going to be tight.
Arsenal, meanwhile, loving life.
Yeah.
You've got a makeshift back four pretty much, but you go in, the squad is so full of confidence. They didn't look like losing today really at all, did they?
Well, I think the key for Arsenal, when Mosquera went off injured, he puts on Timber at right back, so Ben White then goes from right back to centre half, and you don't even notice the join. But they're missing Saliba, they're missing Gabriel. They've got so much depth. I think they lack a bit of X factor, a bit of star quality in terms of, like, you know, what Chelsea have got, that explosiveness. But they're rock solid, and at every position, apart from maybe Odegaard in midfield, they've got cover for, and that's why the 5 points to the top of the league and looking really strong.
And you've got Marina coming in, making an impact.
They finally got their number 9, didn't they? I mean, I bet Gyökeres was sitting thinking, I wish I was getting some of those crosses. I mean, he did get one at the end against Chelsea that Timber took off his head.
Yeah.
But he does do a great job. He's, you know, he is against Chelsea in the first half. Nobody gave the ball away, I think, for Arsenal more than Moreno. And then he pops up with important goals, and he did again tonight. He's done a great job for Mikel Arteta. Look, it's theirs to lose, isn't it? Even this early in the season, it's theirs to lose.
Can we just take a look at the Premier League table again, just to remind, like Chelsea, after the Chelsea game, we got, well, maybe they could push it, maybe they could do something. But it just feels like one result has completely changed that narrative.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, maybe we kind of got too excited about the performance Chelsea gave us against Arsenal, because we had been talking all season about how you can't really trust them. You know, we know what they're capable of, but they don't always show it. And then they produce that performance against Arsenal, and you think, okay, they because of the problems that we know City have, that's why we've kind of not discarded them, but we know the problems. Okay, now we've got somebody who maybe we can hang our hat on, who can actually put some pressure on Arsenal, who can chase them, force them into doing things they maybe wouldn't do. But then they turn round, the manager picks the wrong team, the players that do play don't produce certainly the intensity was nowhere close to what it was against Arsenal. And so we're kind of back to where we started.
Yeah, we're kind of picking and choosing who we think are the next title contenders. Manchester City, okay, sitting second, but we saw yesterday that vulnerability at the back. It's difficult to put an argument as to why consistently they're going to put a run together.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Villa. I mean, Villa maybe, if Villa beat Arsenal at the weekend, then maybe Villa are back in it, but they've never been in it in the first place. So you wouldn't trust Villa to be the challengers. And Man City, like you say, unreliable at the back. And if Erling Haaland gets injured or misses any period of time, then who scores the goals? So for me, Arsenal are the best team, and I can't think of a league season like this in many years whereby the second best team has been so far off the best team. There's just not a direct challenger. There's nobody there that you can... I mean, the league is so poor this year that Liverpool and Man United could both qualify for the Champions League, which is crazy considering how they've had the season so far.
I mean, we were sitting here, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, whatever it was, talking about City, and people were saying, well, you're talking about their defence, and their defensive record at the time wasn't that bad. And it wasn't. They were saying, well, you know, but that's the last 3 or 4 games, that's gone out the window. It's completely gone out the window. I mean, they were hanging on against Leeds.
10. We lost 10 goals in the last 4 games.
So, I mean, that...
City could do business in January. A lot of clubs, I think, are looking at the window, but City they've got headroom to spend. They like Semenyo at Bournemouth. They like Elliot Anderson. I don't think...
Semenyo's not a defender.
How many didn't they do a lot of business last January?
Yeah, and in the summer.
And where are they?
Where's Mamouche?
They're all sat in the stand.
How can you be in a position, a club
over there?
How can you be in a position, a club like Man City? You knew you were losing some of your key fullbacks. You had the summer to address it. They're still playing Mateus Nunes at right back, and you know, and Nico O'Reilly at left back. He's a very good player, but he's not a left back. No. You signed that Nouri from Wolves in the summer. I mean, I'm fed up saying this. He's a good footballer going forward. He can't defend.
Well, what City have done, they've signed lots of players over the last 2 or 3 windows who haven't been as good as the ones that they replaced. Substantially different, you know, certainly in terms of De Bruyne and Reinders. But for me, they haven't addressed the Rodri situation. Rodri, to me, looks like he's really struggling to get over his injury. And they brought in Nico Gonzalez in January, hasn't done well. They were expecting Rodri to be back this season, and Rodri would have kind of locked the door in front of the defence. He's not fit, he's struggling, and that has left a real problem in the team. So I think if City can address that in the window, like I said, they like Elliot Anderson. Are they £100 million for the midfield in January? I can't see Forest selling, but if they get something like that in, and Semenyo, then that would give City a bit of a
But how
boost.
can
That's
you?
going
Going
to
to be tough, though.
Absolutely.
You're talking about a Ballon d'Or winner.
be Elliot Anderson.
Yeah. I mean, Rodri's a guy that won the Ballon d'Or who gets a bad injury, and you know it's going to take time when he comes back. I mean, even you know they've been scouting, you know they're looking at people, but they're never going to. You can't replace Ballon d'Or.
He came back in June, and they were expecting this season that he was having his kind of pre-season in June at the Club World Cup, get a couple of games under his belt, and they expected by the start of this season, or certainly by now, he'd be back playing again. Right. And he's just struggling. He's picking lots of injuries, hamstring problems. So clearly, I mean, he's had a cruciate, it's a bad injury, so he's clearly struggling to get back to anywhere near his best.
But that's a big ask for any player. I don't care how good you are, to come in and all of a sudden the back door's one player, the back line's protected. They knew the full back position has been key for them, and key for them tactically as well, how he plays his full backs. I mean, they're all doing it now. Most of them are copying him.
Aye.
But didn't even he say at Guardiola that, you know, if you look at Arsenal, for example, we look at their back line. Yeah, their full backs will want to get forward, but ultimately you could argue certainly Calafiore is a centre back. But the Timber and Calafiore, their first job and their first mindset is defending. Everything else is a bonus after that. And I think that's the right mentality to have. Guardiola seems to have the opposite, whereas he wants these attacking players and the full-back position, and it's leaving the rest of the other two centre-halves exposed. I mean, how can you be 5-1 up? I mean,
Paul Burmeister, Tim Howard, Danny Higginbotham, they almost had all 3 points, they being Manchester United. Danny, what mistake did they make in the second half?
I think it's been a regular occurrence with them. They don't finish teams off. I think if you look at the 6 wins this season, only 2 of them have been by more than 1 goal. When you look at the teams that are challenging, the great teams over the years in the Premier League, they get that first goal, they go and get the second, they go and get the third. It's as though Manchester United get that first goal and it's like, right, okay, we'll sit back because we're not too sure what to do next. And they allow the opposition back on them. And, you know, the atmosphere was brilliant. You know, it was mentioned during the commentary, but you can just see the faces now. And it's obviously there's huge frustration because that is a game that Manchester United should have won. But I think there's an argument to say they didn't deserve to win it.
Well, I look at the both ends of it, Dan, with what you're saying. They don't have that number 9 striker that's hungry for a goal. When you get up in a game, what that striker does, when we talk about Haaland being so selfish and arrogant, which is what you want from your striker, you want a striker at 1-0 to say, I'm going to go and bag a brace or get my goal. And they just don't seem to have that at one end. At the other end, they've kept 1 Premier League clean sheet. That's not good enough, and teams are gonna think they can nip one at the end because they know that you're vulnerable. And look, West Ham had a game plan. They didn't have to come out, Paul. They parked the bus, they played on the break, they had 2 banks of 4, really good for a team down near the bottom going to Old Trafford, and they were allowed to do that because it was only 1-0. So long as the game was 0-0 or 1-1, that game plan was perfect, and it proved to be perfect. At the end, all they needed to do was get up the pitch 1 or 2 times, get a corner, and that happens.
And I think you add on to that as well, is that teams, when they play Manchester United, I think a lot of them are probably the mindset, if they can be in the game going into the last 20, 25 minutes, they can potentially get something from it. I think 3/4 of the goals that Manchester United conceded have been in the second half. So whether it's a case of they start to tire, whether they start to get frustrated, or when they take the lead, it's very difficult for them to like, okay, what we're going to do next. Like when you were part of great Manchester United teams, I played against great Manchester United teams. If you conceded the first goal, it could be very, very quickly 2 or 3-0, and they just don't seem to have that belief where they can take it on.
And the other part about it, and I've said this a long time, and this is a tactical thing with Ruben Amorim. He oftentimes will change someone in his back 3 or back 4 in the second half, like a like-for-like change. Not someone who's injured, not someone who's on a yellow card like Kevin. He'll just change someone in the back 4, in the back 3. That's unsettling to teams. And so I'm actually looking at that thinking, maybe there's no wonder they're not keeping clean sheets. There's not a lot of continuity throughout the course of 90 minutes. So
I also think the frustration is, and as I said this to you off air, Cunha, Mbumo, Fernandes, you've got players there that are creative, that can make things happen. And for whatever reason, a lot of them, they find themselves in the same vicinity on the pitch, so they then become easier to defend against.
And it's not your, I mean, there are missed opportunities every weekend. However, this one is different because they had a chance to move past 4 teams. You usually move past 1 or 2 if you win. They could have gone all the way to 5th. So that sense of urgency in those last 10 or 15 minutes really could have gone a long way.
It could have done. There's an argument to say that this is the most competitive Premier League ever because of how quickly teams can jump up. But what I would say for Manchester United as well, a lot of the times they have to work hard to score goals. I'm not too sure how hard teams are having to work to actually score against Manchester United, and that's an issue as well.
And just to put a cap on this was an opportunity. Beat Palace, beat West Ham at home, that's down in and around the bottom 3. Then you play Wolves, and that's 3 in a row. And here they are on the back foot again, getting a draw.
A couple hours ago, before we knew the personality of this match, I think it was you, Danny, that said, if they don't, at home, against the 18th place team, get all 3 points here, it's a bad outing. And it's one aside after it's tied at 1 apiece.
Mikel Arteta has made it clear that Arsenal will need to unleash their complete player against Bayern Munich. The Gunners host the German champions at the Emirates Stadium on Wednesday, and one man in particular could be decisive. Ebereki Eze, described as a very complete player by teammate Mikel Merino, is emerging as one of Arsenal's most dangerous weapons ahead of their Champions League clash with Bayern. The 27-year-old announced himself in North London with a stunning hat-trick in his first derby since arriving in a £67.5 million move from Crystal Palace. His 3 brilliant goals dismantled Tottenham, and truthfully, he could have scored even more. Merino believes every one of Arsenal's 8 summer signings has lifted the squad's level, helping the team build a 6-point lead at the top of the Premier League. But Wednesday's matchup is different. Bayern Munich, the reigning Bundesliga champions, represent the toughest test yet for Arteta's side. Speaking after the win over Spurs, Merino praised Eze's qualities and hinted at the impact he could have in such a high-stakes European battle. "We've brought in a lot of players who can make a difference. But you can see that other teams have spent big as well," the Spain international said. "Individual brilliance can win matches, sure, but in the end, it's the team that matters. If you have great players who don't connect, that's a problem. The good thing about this group is that everyone thinks about the team first." When asked about Eze specifically, Merino didn't hesitate. "I think he's incredibly complete. He can dribble, he can pass, and his technical quality is outstanding. In Spain, we always talk about players who can connect with others. He has that naturally. He grew up with that instinct to link play, move the ball, and build relationships on the pitch. He also has the mindset to get involved, demand the ball, and influence the game. At the same time, he's strong, he can take players on, and he can finish. He's a truly complete signing." Merino also touched on how the modern game often reduces players to simple numbers. "These days everyone judges players by goals and assists, that's just how it is. But as footballers, we see the deeper qualities he brings, the technique, the movement, the intelligence. Even in training, you can tell immediately how special he is. Yes, he's scoring goals, but he's much more than that. He's an exceptional player, and we're incredibly lucky to have him. He can play in several positions and adapt to different systems. He's been a huge addition for Arsenal." Beyond the technical qualities, Merino believes Eze's attitude, and the healthy competition within the squad, will be crucial in Arsenal's title push. You can hear the calm in Ebereki's voice and see it in the way he carries himself. He's confident, grounded, and every morning we sit together in the sauna at the training ground and talk about everything, he added with a smile. "He's a great guy, already fully integrated, and we need players like him. Competition is fierce. There's so much quality in this squad." That's exactly what the manager wanted, as many top players as possible, all ready to play. It makes his decisions tough, choosing who starts and who doesn't, but it also pushes every one of us to give our best in every session. And that's why we're improving as a team. As Arsenal prepare for Bayern's arrival, Arteta is facing one of the most delicate balancing acts of the season. The squad is healthy, competition is fierce, and expectations have never been higher. But behind the scenes, there is a growing sense that Eze's versatility and calm presence may be essential against a Bayern side known for controlling the tempo in big European nights. Arteta himself has hinted at Eze's importance without naming him directly. After the Tottenham victory, the manager spoke about the need for players who can break pressure, dictate rhythm, and stay composed when the game becomes chaotic. Those inside the club believe those comments were aimed at Ease as much as anyone. The coaching staff has been particularly impressed by how quickly he has adapted to Arsenal's positional play structure, a system that demands far more tactical discipline than what he was used to at Crystal Palace. Analysts at the club point to his growing influence not only in the final third, but also in build-up phases, where his ability to glide past pressure could help Arsenal bypass Bayern's aggressive midfield line. There is also an awareness that Bayern's fullbacks tend to push high, leaving spaces between the lines. Ease's skill set, sharp turns, deceptive acceleration, and precise final balls, could be exactly what Arteta needs to exploit those gaps. Outside the club, pundits have already started circling Wednesday's match as a defining moment for the £67.5 million signing. Some believe that if Ease can impose himself on a Champions League quarter-final against Bayern Munich, it will confirm his arrival among Europe's elite creative players. Former players have echoed that sentiment. Several ex-Arsenal figures, speaking on television over the weekend, highlighted the need for someone who can change the temperature of the match with a moment of calm or an unexpected burst of creativity. Ease, they argued, is one of the few in the squad capable of both. Meanwhile, Bayern Munich come into the match with their own confidence. Their midfield trio has been one of the most dominant in Europe this season, and they have shown a repeated ability to suffocate opponents early. That dynamic is precisely why Arteta may lean on Ease's composure. When the game tightens, Arsenal will need a player capable of slowing it down, protecting the ball, and finding solutions in tight spaces. Within Arsenal's dressing room, Mourinho's praise reflects a broader consensus. Senior players have reportedly been struck by Ease's humility and work ethic, qualities that have helped him integrate seamlessly into a squad that already had strong internal chemistry. Staff members describe him as someone who never forces the game and lets the match come to him, characteristics that could prove invaluable in a high-tension Champions League tie. As kickoff approaches, the narrative surrounding the match has shifted. What began as a test of Arsenal's resilience has quietly become a spotlight on whether Ease can elevate them in Europe the same way he has in the Premier League. For Arteta, the equation is simple. If Arsenal are to overcome Bayern, they will need more than intensity. They will need control. They will need creativity. And increasingly, they will need the completeness Ease brings to every phase of the pitch. Whether he starts in a wide role as a floating midfielder, or even as an interior playmaker, the expectation is the same. Ease will have to find the spaces others cannot, and influence the game in ways that statistics alone will not capture. The stakes are high, the opponent is formidable, and the spotlight is intense. But within the walls of London Coney, the belief is growing that this is exactly the kind of stage Ebereki Ease was signed for. Martin Odegaard is nearing a return to action after suffering a medial collateral ligament injury in Arsenal's 2-0 win over West Ham earlier in October. Yet, 3.5 years after Mikel Arteta named him captain, the Norwegian finds himself in an unfamiliar position. His place in the starting lineup is no longer guaranteed. For the first time since joining the club permanently from Real Madrid in August 2021, there is real debate over whether he remains an automatic choice for Arteta's 11. Odegaard, now 26, has been central to Arsenal's resurgence under Arteta, the conductor who shaped the team's rhythm through some of their most fluid football. But this season, the Gunners have been forced to navigate long stretches without their captain, first due to a shoulder issue that kept him out of 4 matches in September, and then because of a knee collision with West Ham's Crescencio Somerville that sidelined him again. And during his absence, something significant happened. Ebereki Ease stepped into the spotlight. Ease's sensational hat-trick in the North London Derby has complicated the picture. Now thriving in a central role, the England international has given Arsenal a different kind of presence around the edge of the box. A blend of unpredictability, directness, and two-footed confidence that opponents struggle to contain. He may not control games with the same metronomic precision as Odegaard, but he offers a spark, a willingness to take risks at moments when Arsenal need a jolt of creativity. After such a standout performance against Tottenham, it feels almost impossible to imagine Arteta leaving Ease out. The manager has always had a soft spot for players riding a wave of confidence, and Ease is currently surfing at full height. There was a similar situation back in September, when Mikel Merino was handed a start against Manchester City after scoring 4 times in 2 games for Spain, including a hat-trick against Turkey. Arteta doesn't hesitate to reward form. Ease has carried that form onto the international stage as well, recently scoring a stunning goal for England in a 2-0 win over Serbia in the World Cup qualifiers at Wembley. Though he can play on the left, it has always been clear that Arteta brought him to the Emirates to operate in midfield. And with Declan Rice and Martin Zubimendi near untouchable in the double pivot, The odds of Ease and Odegaard consistently starting together seem slim. That leaves Odegaard in an unfamiliar position. He needs minutes to rebuild sharpness, yet Arsenal's medical team won't rush him. The plan is likely to ease him back through short substitute appearances before restoring him to larger roles. But even once fully fit, Odegaard faces genuine competition, because Ease has shifted the landscape. His arrival has raised the team's ceiling, and his performances have earned him the right to keep his place. Before the dismantling of Tottenham, Ease had scored only twice for Arsenal, one against Port Vale in the Carabao Cup and another versus his former club Crystal Palace, a clever finish that sealed victory. Now, with 5 goals across all competitions, he sits just one behind Odegaard's total from last season, when the captain made 45 appearances. Odegaard's 2023-24 numbers were outstanding: 11 goals, 12 assists, influence written across every competition. That is the standard he must match again if he wants to reclaim his spot, because Ease is hungry, confident, and eager to impress ahead of next summer's World Cup. Arteta will insist that Arsenal need both players at their best if they are to meet their ambitions in the months ahead. And with Kai Havertz also working his way back to full fitness, potentially slotting into midfield behind marquee striker Victor Gyökeres, the battle for places has never been fiercer at the Emirates. For Odegaard, the message is clear: he must rise to the challenge. His leadership and quality remain unquestioned, but he can no longer rely on reputation alone. If he embraces the competition and fights his way back into the side, his return could push Arsenal to even greater heights. And if the team has already reached this level without several key figures, the potential for what comes next may be even greater. Inside the club, staff members are quietly acknowledging that Arsenal are entering a new phase, one where no player, not even the captain, is immune to tactical evolution. Arteta has spent the past 2 seasons building a squad capable of sustaining pressure across multiple competitions, and the emergence of Ease is a sign that the manager's long-term planning is beginning to bear fruit. Depth is no longer a luxury, it is a necessity. But with depth comes difficult decisions. Arteta has always valued balance in midfield, and the contrasting profiles of Odegaard and Ease force him to reconsider what type of midfield best suits the team's ambitions in Europe and the Premier League. The technical control and spatial awareness that Odegaard brings have defined Arsenal's identity under Arteta. Conversely, Ease's dynamism, physical presence, and unpredictable touches give Arsenal a new dimension, especially against teams that sit deep or defend aggressively in central areas. This internal shift has also caught the attention of analysts and former players. Several pundits have begun to question whether the captaincy should guarantee a place in the lineup, especially at a club with ambitions of challenging for the Champions League. Others argue that Odegaard's leadership is too valuable to sideline, pointing to the standards he sets in training and his influence over younger players. Those debates are already spilling into the media, and they will only intensify as the season progresses. There is also the tactical question of whether Arteta might eventually experiment with a system that accommodates both Ease and Odegaard, something he briefly attempted earlier in the season during the win over West Ham. But with Rice and Zubimendi forming an almost impenetrable midfield pairing, any reshuffle risks destabilizing the defensive structure that has made Arsenal one of the most resilient teams in the league. The manager has hinted that he is open to adjustments, but only if they enhance the team's overall cohesion. For Odegaard himself, the challenge is as much psychological as it is physical. He has worked hard to cultivate an image of calm authority, a leader who raises the level of those around him through clarity and consistency. Now he must show that he can adapt, compete, and respond to adversity. His teammates still speak of him with admiration, describing him as one of the most studious and detail-oriented players at London Coney. They believe that once he regains full rhythm, he will naturally reassert his influence. Yet even they acknowledge that the landscape has shifted. One senior player privately remarked that, "The team is different now, Ease has changed what we can do in the final third." That sentiment reflects not a lack of faith in Odegaard, but an understanding that Arsenal have evolved while he has been sidelined. For Arteta, the ideal scenario is straightforward: a fully fit Odegaard competing with a fully confident Ease, creating a level of internal competition that lifts the entire squad. The manager often speaks about the need for healthy tension among his players, pressure that keeps standards high without fracturing unity. The arrival of Victor Gyökeres, combined with the recovery of Havertz, only amplifies that dynamic. Arsenal's season will almost certainly hinge on these midfield decisions. With Champions League knockout matches approaching and the Premier League title race tightening, Arteta must decide not only who starts, but what kind of identity he wants his team to carry into the defining months of the campaign. The next few weeks will reveal whether Odegaard's return sparks a resurgence or a battle for relevance. If he manages to reclaim his place, it could serve as a reminder of why Arteta trusted him with the armband in the first place. If he struggles, it will underline how rapidly Arsenal are progressing, and how little room there is for sentiment at the highest level. Either way, the captain's response will shape not just his future, but the trajectory of a team that believes it is on the brink of something significant.